What's up, everybody? This is JJ from Pink Ribbon Racing. We're back today at Deslo Garage, and today we have Jarrell's car with us, and we're actually doing something fairly simple today, but very important. We're gonna do the spark plugs on this car. So Jarrell just told me that his motor has about 11,000 miles on it already. Majority of that, I can attest that they're track miles. So it's time to, pull the spark plugs out, and then we're gonna give them a look. It really kind of gives us an idea of what the engine will look like in terms of condition, how it's been running. Depending on the signs that it's gonna give, we can tell a lot by just looking at the spark plugs. So we'll dive right in, and I'll show you guys how we're gonna pull them apart and put it right back in there. All right, so first and foremost, I've already took most of this stuff out before we started today, but obviously there was an engine cover here before all this. And then in Jarrell's case, we had the strut bar brace. So we took apart the strut bar, opened it up, took out the engine cover. But it'll immediately let us get right to it. If anybody's already done this before or opened this up before, they know the spark plugs are right here, and there's gonna be 6 of them. So when you open it up, the first thing you'll see are the coil packs. They're coil on plug packs, so there's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 6 of them right here. It's pretty straightforward. There's not really any crazy tricks or hard to reach places with these, fortunately. So we'll get right to it. The first tool you're gonna need is actually gonna be this E8. And if you wanna come look over here, come over here, man. You can look at this. So right here, this is what holds on the plug, the coil pack here. So the first thing we're gonna do is just break that loose. It's fairly easy. They're not crazily tight on there. You should be able to just do it by one hand. And depending on how you like to work on your cars, I prefer to actually just go through and loosen as much as I can, and basically go from there. And then also another thing that you want to keep on you while you're doing this is a flat head. So the flat heads here is really just to disconnect all the electrical plugs. So you're gonna notice that's gonna be all the plugs that goes to the coil pack. So 6 of them, they're like these. And then once we get back here, we're gonna also remove the O2 sensor plugs back here as well. So they're fairly straightforward, don't need a whole lot of force. Just take a flathead, small flathead, put it in, and then basically just separate the clip. From there, you should be able to press on it and just yank it out like any other clip. Right there, that's it. And then, there you go, that's another one. Wow. So, one of the things I love working on my own cars is, besides the fact that I'm OCD, is once I actually do anything, it's a good idea to, as you're doing things, to just really pay attention to everything that you're putting your hands on. It's a good time for you to be able to check any sort of plug. So in this case, wasn't sure why, but Jarrell's O2 sensor plug was actually really loose. So it just kind of actually came out. But yeah, just pay attention to little things like that. It does go a long way. Sometimes it saves your life, actually, if you just pay attention a little bit more. And then from back here, once you get to the last plug here, there's also one more plug that you should get it out of the way just so makes your life easier, but it's the high pressure fuel pump plug. So, but it's the same, it's just clips in the back and then you just remove it. Oh, and this thing, you should be able to kind of twist around, and this should swivel on a pretty free basis. It shouldn't get in your way, but just like that. So now that everything's unplugged, I can get back to loosening the E8s, right, that's holding the coil packs together. So when you back these bolts out, don't freak out the fact that they don't actually come out of the coil pack. They're actually supposed to stay together as one unit. So that's something to pay attention to, just so you guys don't lose your mind trying to back it all the way out, and then in reality, they don't actually come out. So there you go. All right, from here, we're ready to just pop the plugs out. Just hold on to it just like so. You don't need to wiggle it way too much. You should be able to just pull it straight out and you'll hear a little pop, just like that. And that's the coil pack. All right, so this is more of a personal preference in terms of a working habit. but I prefer to, since my working habit is that I like to remove everything first rather than do it one by one. But if that's the case, I actually take my time and label each one of these plugs, even the spark plugs themselves, so that way I know exactly which cylinder they go back to next time. One of the reasons being is, well, for one, it's always nice to have them go back to where they came from, and with electrical stuff like these, each of these plug coil packs have their own impedance. So it's best to keep them consistent to the cylinder that they've already are working in. That way you don't have any random variations of a motor, like any variations you could take out of a motor, it's good. Consistency is always best. It allows you to be able to diagnose stuff much faster in the future. So there you go, labeled, cylinder 1. That's where it should go back to. I mean, and of course, just like I said earlier, anytime you get your hands on any parts that you're removing, just take some time to look at it. In this case, the boots, it shouldn't happen. This is these are new cars, but old cars, these boots can crack and all that stuff, and that actually really takes away from your electrical power to the spark plug. There's a trick. I mean, please don't actually do this, but back in school, they told us there was a trick to see if your car was running rich or lean, and is take the spark plug out and lick it while the car's running. Don't do that. It's gonna feel a little bit better than a 9-volt battery, a couple thousand volts. Number 6, that's the last one, right there. And that's all of them. All right, here we go. Elote? Elote? Okay, on to the next part. This is the part where we actually take the spark plugs out, and this is what you'll need. A little bit, it's kind of a unique tool, so usually might not have this laying around the garage, but you're gonna need a spark plug socket. So in this case, it's a 14 12-point socket. Reason why these are unique is the wall is actually super thin, so it allows you to actually get in there. Normal sockets is probably the wall is probably way too thick, so you won't actually get past the seal that's inside. And then the next thing you also need is a locking extension. So unlike a regular extension, this actually latches onto the socket itself. So when you actually pull anything out, it won't just leave a socket in there once in a while, right? So you just need that. And then basically from there, you could get straight in there and then give it a little bit of, there you go. Yeah, you can turn it a little bit just to make sure the 12-point splines in properly, and then it should be really easy to crank loose. Anytime that you have a spark plug that's way too hard to break loose, you might be running into a bigger problem than you realize. So right there. Okay, that's it. So from there, they should be loose enough where you could actually just use your hands to loosen the rest of the way. Okay, so normally when this socket just as is, before I mess with it, this actually has a built-in magnet inside, and it's for the specific purpose that it holds onto the spark plug as you take it out. However, the spark plugs on this car, these are the new ones by the way, because you guys can see, they're really freaking long, right, on the body. So what happens is once it goes in there, if I don't take out the magnet that's already inside, it won't actually let me get the socket all the way down there. So I had to take the magnet out, which means that it's nothing terrible, which just really means that I had to add an extra step to taking it out, which is using my own magnetic pickup tool. So you guys might have to do that, but you guys are probably fancy enough to have a socket that could do both. So there we go. Just like that. So from here, I do it one at a time. And honestly, it's a good idea to have some sort of cover to just go over the spark plug holes, just in case anything falls in there. All right, so now that we got this out, we could really look at the spark plugs themselves. So the condition of the spark plugs is a good telltale sign of the health of the engine. In Jarrell's case, to be honest, this is not terrible. This is actually really good still. Yeah, you guys could look right there. 10,000 miles, most of it track miles. This is pretty decent. I guess by decent means that it's not black, it's not crazy white-ish. There's no carbon buildup. There's no signs of oil fouling it. The electrode tip on the spark plug itself is still really there, so it hasn't melted away. So this is actually a good sign. There's nothing crazy going on in his motor. Well, at least not cylinder one, at least. So that's a good thing. But if you guys know your spark plugs, you guys can look this up online, but different signs of the spark plugs indicates different things. So one of the big ones is like, hey, if there's like a lot of white on here, it means that the cylinder itself chances are it's burning too hot. So that could be a multitude of reasons. For one, I think the most common one is probably running too lean. So especially for high horsepower cars or boosted cars in general, in our case, it's common for the cylinder to run really hot and thus inducing the spark plugs to burn up white. But proper tuning gives you it shouldn't actually have any problems. So in our case, this is great. Again, this is just my own personal working habits, but I label the spark plugs from the cylinders that they come out of, and then I send a photo to my tuner afterwards, and then let them see the condition of it based on which cylinder it came out of. So that way they get an idea of what's going on with your engine as well. Okie dokes. Time to actually put the new plugs in themselves. So you can look, these are the OEM plugs from Toyota. And these actually, so I remember back in the day when we have to put in plugs, you have to actually gap these. But it seems like they've already come pre-gapped from the factory. However, it's really up to you as an enthusiast to always check the plug gaps themselves. So in our case, the plug gap is 0.026 of an inch. So all you need to do, I have a feeler gauge right here, right? Just gotta slide that through. Make sure there's no tug. And that's it. I've already done that for all 6 of these, so just gonna have to take my word for it that I actually done it before we install them. And then one more extra little step prior to installing them is a little bit of anti-seize. You just need a little bit. I'm sure some people are gonna say more lube is better, but you really don't need a whole lot in this case. Please don't put that in the video. Oh my gosh, dude. I could already feel the judgy eyes from the 2 people not in this video right now. I feel it, you guys. I feel it. So, put some anti-seize on there. Back into the cylinder it goes. Another reason of if you still have the magnet in that socket, makes it really easy to feed it back into the cylinder and just start the threads. In my case, I have to do it with this, so you just have to really, really gently do it. And then the threads I've already started, and then just go ahead and by hand, there we go, hand tighten. I just hand tighten all of them for now, and then we'll go back with a torque wrench and torque them all down all at once. All right, so you're just gonna do the exact same thing for the rest of them. Take a look at this one. This is from cylinder 2. It's pretty much the exact same thing as the first one. Nothing crazy, no weird buildup. Electrode tip is still there, so very healthy. It's good. I don't really expect a 11,000 mile engine to do anything too out of the ordinary, so that's a good thing. Oh yeah, and just in case if somebody is curious about the temp ranges of our OEM plugs, even with tuning and all that stuff, there's no indication that we need to run a colder plug or anything in our case. So at least not that I've seen it. So OEM plugs are still good to go. Yeah, another habit that it's probably good to have is I double check before this, but when you get your new plugs, just inspect the new stuff as well. Make sure there's no damages during transportation or delivery. Like the ceramic part is cracked or something, that's never good. Uh-oh. So this is cylinder number 6. there's a really good indication that everything's good. Just want to see if I could get a reaction out of the guy, but it's like a sphinx, man. Like, I can't tell what he's thinking. All right, so all the spark plugs are in the cylinders. So now I'm just gonna hand tight everything. Do you believe I already got that one? I'm sure you guys already know this. Don't use an impact, for the love of God, to thread in, you know. Dude, you never know, man. There's always somebody that's like, oh, I'm sick of putting on the threads with their hands. Just electric impact that thing. Yeah. It's always somebody somewhere. I mean, it's cool if you want cross-threaded heads, and it's fine with me, I guess. for the spark plugs, that only needs to go in once, and that's it. That's basically the torque spec for every bolt-on car. How many gratatas are we using? All right, did you guys pay attention? I mean, did I already do all 6? I did all 6, right? Okay, I mean, if I asked you guys. If I didn't tighten one of them, then it's you guys' fault. Okay, so all the spark plugs are in to their cylinders. Now for our last step, well, almost the last step, we're gonna torque them. So each of these spark plugs are torqued to 23 Newton meters or 17 foot-pounds. I mean, you really don't have to go that slow, but I do it for dramatic effects, so that's good. And boom, right there, 23.0. Ooh, it's like I know what I'm doing sometimes. It's crazy. And that's it. Now we just gotta button it all back and time for a test drive. Start with number 6. And when you put these back in, it's exact, there's nothing fancy to it. Just take it slow. Make sure you're not just ramming them back into the spark plugs. Make sure they seal well, and that's really it. Okay, there, give them all a last little wiggle. Make sure they're good. Looks good to me. So, for those that are really paranoid about things, before you unclip them, you could also mark these to their respective cylinders as well. But these have a natural tendency to kind of just fall back to where they are. But if you are OCD that way, you could do that as well. But when you put the clip back in, very important, that goes back, it's clipped in, and you have to push the white part back into it too, is the lock. So make sure you complete that second step of pushing the white clip back in. So click, and then another one. There. Yep. And that's it. That's all the plugs. After that, we'll give it a start, and should be all good to go. All right, guys, so that's it for us today. That's gonna be the procedure on how to do the spark plugs. Again, if you guys wanna see this video, if you guys have any questions, make a comment below here, and you can find the contents on Supra MK5 on YouTube. You'll find other content such as when we go racing or any other technical questions that you guys might have. So that's it for us. Thanks, Jarrell, and thanks for Deslo Garage hosting as always. And I'm JJ, Pink Ribbon Racing, and we'll see you guys next time.